I'm Mandy Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Scorpio for April 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog, and while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and get my monthly write-up for the month ahead astrologically. So what is going on in this month of April? We are still in the midst of retrograde energies. We start the month still in Venus retrograde through the 15th. We have Mercury retrograde starting this month going into the beginning of May. So it's a time to wrap up unfinished business. We'll talk more about the general astrology transits later, but first I want to talk about some things specific to Scorpio placements. So I have not spoken about the North Node in transit in a chart, in our horoscope charts before. This was called to my attention by one of my apprentices a while ago. She wondered why I hadn't mentioned it before, because I always talk about North Nodes in my apprenticeship group because I'm crazy about it. I don't let anyone go through my apprenticeship program or a reading with me without hearing all about the North Node placements, because this has to do with your highest expression in this lifetime. And you can see why I would think that's one of the most important things. So when we're talking about North Node in transit shows us keys that are present in our life right now that show direction for getting our bigger picture of highest expression on track. And for Scorpio, early, middle, and late degree placements, that transiting North Node energy is in the 10th house. So the 10th house has to do with your career, your work, your life purpose. It has to do with your ambitions, and it has to do with authority figures and father figures. So I'm calling the theme for this month for Scorpio, or for this transit, making peace with dad, because there are so many people who don't have the success in their lives that Spirit wants them to have because of unresolved issues with their parents. And specifically for Scorpios, right now with this North Node placement, it's telling the story of something involving father or someone who was an authority figure who did not use their power in a way that was either wise or fair or safe even. And because of the way they used that energy, you are limited with your highest purpose and your work out in the world. So look for, ask about, delve into the places where your relationships with authority figures throughout the course of your life are creating themes in your current work areas. Okay, so that's a little tidbit about the North Node. There is a bunch of energy for early, middle, and late degree Scorpio placements. Early degree placements have the, and this is in the 6th house, the Sun and Mercury. Middle degree placements have Mercury and part Mars for some of you, and late degree placements have Mars. So regardless of why, all of you have this 6th house focus. 6th house has to do with your routine, your organization, your health, things that you do every day. It has to do with your pets, working with animals, etc. So there's going to be a strong focus now on trying to get organized and trying to get your life structured well. If you already have your life over-structured and over-scheduled, then the suggestion could be to schedule it less, to do less of this work. To have less organization and have more simplicity in your schedule. But whatever it is, whether it's one extreme or the other for you, or little bits of both that have to come through, the focus is bringing you right front and center to your daily experience, what you do every day, your mundane reality. So with things like clearing out clutter, organizing things, clearing out your purses and briefcases, clearing out drawers, fixing things around the house, just mundane things that have to be fixed. And working smarter is another theme of this transit. There's so much that we could do to streamline our work efforts. And when all this energy is gathered in the 6th house, it's a time for you to ask the question, not only how can you work harder towards your goals, but also how can you work smarter. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned before, and I know that I'll mention again, this fantastic book called The 4-Hour Work Week. Now, I think that many people who read that book, myself included, don't have their work schedule down to where they work 4 hours after reading that book. But I can say that I have significantly been able to adjust my work hours based on the principles in that book. So one key that he gives in there that you can try to implement for this cycle that will be beneficial for you according to your astrology is if you have a whole big list of things to do, there's usually one or two things on that list, that daily list, that you really have to do, and if you did those things, you'd really feel like you made headway. But usually you're doing the other 10,000 things on the list and you're procrastinating, trying to avoid those other things. So he says, pick two things on your list that are the things that you're avoiding doing, that you'd feel most productive if you got them done, that you're doing all the other stuff to avoid. Do those first in the day. Then you won't go through your day looking back and thinking, how did I work all day and get nothing done, first of all. Second of all, you might start to set up for yourself a different way of life where you have these top couple of things to do every day, where you do things that matter more instead of a whole bunch of other stuff that makes you feel like you haven't gotten anywhere. So hopefully that key can be helpful to you. I also wanted to talk about Saturn. Saturn is a longer term transit. It's not short term like these sixth house energies that we were just referring to. Saturn moves through a house anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 years, depending on the size of your particular house it's moving through. And for all early, middle, and late degree placements, this is accentuating the second house. Some very late degree placements, if your birthday is at the very end of the sign, this might have just recently been starting for you. But in any case, it's true for all of you that Saturn is bringing its lessons to the second house. And I'm choosing now to talk about Saturn because Saturn is going retrograde in the month of April through, it's like the 5th or 6th, depending on your time zone, and that's through August 25th. So all the things that Saturn has been doing as far as bringing lessons to this house, which I'll talk about in a second, it's going to be shifting into a more passive role. Saturn is a taskmaster. And when Saturn moves through the second house like it is for all of y'all, it wants you to get disciplined with your finances. It can bring hardships with money, can bring serious restrictions with money for some people, but for others, I've seen it to be just as likely that Saturn brings fruition and accomplishment and positive, permanent, long-term financial gains. So depending on how it's manifesting for you, there's still the lesson that it's talking about your money, how you're using your money, how you're budgeting your money. If you spent more money or less money on certain things, could you work less? What is the value trade-off for you, So Saturn is going to be giving you a break from the lessons as it's in retrograde, and it's a chance to integrate the things that have happened. And in some cases, it's traumatizing. Saturn can bring some really heavy lessons involving money. So for those of you who it's at the other end where it's just like kind of squashing your finances out, I wouldn't hesitate to do even some trauma work around that, because traumas tend to come up with 7-year cycles. So something that you're experiencing now, you could have had your mother experience when you were in the womb or just a small child. You could have had her financial trauma imprint you, and then every 7 years you could be reliving this trauma. And that could be part of the lesson of what Saturn wants you to work out. So there's an amazing modality called EMDR. It's a trauma therapy. I talk about it sometimes because I love it so much. It helps to erase trauma and integrate trauma and clear trauma. Psychologists do this. There are also some other ways to do it, but it's probably covered under your insurance. You can call your insurance company and find a practitioner that does EMDR. And if you have financial trauma and there are negative things happening with your finances, you can go about trauma release work, which I highly recommend. If you've been working very hard, you might see the efforts of Saturn moving through your second house manifest for you in really huge ways with your money. So if you've been feeling like some good financial story is coming, Saturn could be bringing that for you. So these are the things that I'm looking at specifically for Scorpio. Now I want to talk about some of the sweet spots and the challenging spots in the general astrology for April. I'm calling the theme of April the general astrology transits that will affect everyone. Wrap it up. We still have a major focus on retrograde energy. We started this theme in December of 2016, and every month until now, we've had a personal planet retrograde and or the shadow period of a personal planet retrograde. So, this idea of taking unfinished business and clearing it up so that when we move forward and we have these signs of moving forward, especially towards the end of April, when Mars gets into Gemini and the energy really starts to stir up, we'll have this feeling of where we're going, you know, this long-awaited actual movement on an external level in the outer realms. But this month of April is a time to wrap it up. It's a time to resolve unfinished business. When I was planning these horoscopes, I was sitting one day in a place that had inspirational quotes flashing across the screen. And there was one that said, "There's more to life than increasing its speed." And that was by Mahatma Gandhi. And I really, really liked that as something to mention for this month, because the energy of retrograde is just the antidote to this over-busy, over-scheduled world. So the more we can take stock of things closer to home, take stock of internal events. You know, it's not that you can't say yes to opportunities that come in your external realms. Of course, it's fine to do things. Just know that new things that seem to come in a retrograde time often will change their terms compared to what you agreed to, or they might be shorter term than you anticipate. That doesn't have to be a problem. That doesn't mean you can't activate it. It's just an awareness to have. But as far as intentionally doing something, you know, it just lends itself to shorter term contracts, and it lends itself to wrapping up unfinished business. So we've got this theme that continues through April. Like I said, at the end of the month, you'll start to see things stirring up as far as like actual authentic outer movements coming soon. So I want to talk about some of the aspects that are going to be relevant this month. I'm going to give you a list of some of them, but you can get a more complete list when you go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and sign up for my free email newsletter. I do a write-up for the upcoming month, and I send that out a month early as well, to give you more details of days that have good energy, days that have challenging energy, and how to, you know, what you might expect with those things. But here's a more summarized list. We start out the month with a really great burst of energy with Mars in Taurus trining Pluto in Capricorn. Mars rules action and Pluto rules transformation, and a trine is the best aspect in astrology. So, you know, you might see something come in that that could be notable, or you might use that time to try to get something done that's important. The same days, like April 5th, April 6th, Saturn's going to go retrograde. When an outer planet goes retrograde, there are different effects than when an inner planet goes retrograde, because outer planets spend a very long period of time retrograde, and inner planets, you know, the ones closer to us, they go retrograde in a different type of cycle. They're not retrograde as long as these outer planets. But in any case, when Saturn goes retrograde, I see it actually as getting a break from Saturn's chop busting. You know, Saturn is the disciplinarian, is the taskmaster. It wants you to do something, you know, to be on point, to step it up, to work really hard, to work smarter, to do all of this stuff, have all these lessons in the signs and houses that it's moving through. When it goes in retrograde, it actually eases up a little bit, where your to-do list is more manageable, where you can integrate the lessons, where you get a break. So I'm excited about the Saturn in retrograde for all of us, and that will be from around April 5th or 6th, depending on your time zone, until August 25th. Then we have on April 7th. Now I'm giving you the dates that these happen, but we can feel the effects of planetary transits before or after the actual day that they happen. So just be aware of that. So on April 7th, we have this yearly Sun opposing Jupiter clash. And this time the Sun is in Aries and Jupiter is in Libra. So this theme that we had quite a bit of last month through major outer planet connections, we have another little burst of this. So Aries is me, Libra is we. So it's like someone's individuality is conflicting with something in relationship, or a relationship obligation, or an opinion of someone you're in relationship with. So that could bring a moment, you know, in relationships where there's a clash there. On April 10th, we have the full moon, and that's at 21 degrees of Libra. This full moon is going to be conjunct Jupiter and square Pluto. All of the planets, all of the signs, all of the placements have a potential to have positive or negative effects. Sometimes we think about Jupiter as having positive luck-bringing effects, and that can often be true. When Jupiter is sitting next to something else, like an event like a full moon, it amplifies it. Full moons are intense already. So the completion, the fruition, something coming to be in the areas of Libra might be more intense or more expanded. So something notable with relationship, someone coming to an agreement, something coming to a closure, and some sort of, something with an interpersonal relationship will probably be the theme there. And the square to Pluto usually means that there's some sort of, person with some control or entity with some control that is not making the situation easier. Usually some sort of force that just seems like it's working against you. So I always like to leave a little room around the full moons because they're often emotional, and you might want to have the space to tend to whatever comes up there, whether it's a great positive thing coming to fruition that you want to be present for, or whether it's a challenge that's going to be emotional and you'll need a little time to recover. I think it's a good idea to leave some space around that full moon, which is on April 10th. On April 16th, there is a nice angle between Venus in Pisces and Mars in Taurus that could bring resolutions in relationships. So it's possible that that full moon accentuates this issue, and that maybe this Venus-Mars aspect could bring some sort of accord back into the picture. On April 17th, there's a beautiful angle between the Sun, which is in Aries, and Saturn, which is in Sagittarius. So this could bring a boost to long-term goals or something that you've been working on for a while, some sort of positive energy there. And then on April 19th or the 20th, depending on where you are, the Sun in Aries is conjunct Mercury. Now, the energy, or actually by then it's in Taurus. So it's the Sun in Taurus conjunct Mercury. So this is going to bring a dose of realism and or a dose of productivity. Whenever planets get together, they have an amplified effect. Sometimes the effects can be a positive experience, sometimes the effects can be a negative experience. The Sun amplifies, Mercury is communication or information or news. So I see it as a realism or productive, something bringing productivity around that time. Then on April 21st and the days around there, especially watch your security on all levels and other private and personal information, because Venus in Pisces is going to square Saturn and Sag, and Saturn can bring some hard lessons and want some details attended to. And Venus rules money and love, and Pisces is stuff kind of going on in the backdrop. So just, be cautious of your personal things in the backdrop, especially around that time. Then on April 24th, we have Mercury in Aries making this beautiful aspect to Saturn and Sag, just like the Sun did a few days before. So this can bring in good news or more boosts to long-term goals. There are some themes that I'm seeing, a theme that I'm seeing this month because of a lot of pretty nice Saturn aspects, are these boosts to long-term goals. Now, even though we're in the midst of something, this retrograde energy that's kind of like a short-term energy or a going backwards energy, but if you've been working over this time to see to details in the backdrop, you might see these Saturn aspects really start to light up, showing the work that you've done is actually getting somewhere. On or around the 26th, you'll feel that new moon energy, and that's going to be at 6 degrees of Taurus. New moons are times to make wishes. You can check out my video, Making Wishes Come True. If you just search for Annie, Making Wishes Come True, you can learn more about how you can use these new moon energies. But basically you get 10 wishes at each new moon, and the more you align your wishes to the energies of the sign that the moon is in, the more easily the universe can bring those wishes into fruition. I also have a blog up on my website, anniehelpsyou.com, called Making Powerful New Moon in Taurus Wishes that you can use specifically for this moon on the 26th. So Taurus energy rules money, finances, self-sufficiency, connectedness to earth, or eco-friendly types of things, earth sustainability projects. Also values, so anything along those lines will get a bigger boost when you wish for them around this time. Then around the 28th, and it's very close to this new moon energy, enough so that these energies could blend together, you could have electrifying experiences or information come in because Mercury is conjunct Uranus. And this is happening in Aries. So you really, anytime you have something involving Uranus, you got to look out for surprises. When it's in Aries, which it has been and is going to be for a while, you have to guard your physicality, especially your head. So, something, you moving along and something bumping your head, the odds of that are increased during that time. So just watch yourself. Now, the odds are just as likely as information will bonk into your head, as opposed to the literal hitting into your head, insights, sudden breakthroughs. It's a really great time for brainstorming. Whenever I see aspects like this with Uranus, I really love it for brainstorming on any topic. Then we close out the month, April 30th, with this energy of Saturn and Sagittarius with Chiron and Pisces. Chiron is the wounded healer. It's an asteroid that really shows us how we have deep levels of woundedness and how that shows up in our lives and how we can make our weakest link become a blessing and a major strength in our lives. So at this time, there could be opportunities for great forgiveness to occur of self and others, and transcending the issue of feeling like a victim. So these are the things that are most on my mind for the general astrology for the month of April. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, where you can see more about my professional development courses. You can keep track of the registration for my astrology apprenticeship program, my coach certification and online business course. If you'd love to be a professional coach, help people reach their goals, that is one of the things I'm really good at, and I love to teach people how to help other people to do that. You can check that out. And I also teach my Creating Successful Online Business course if you would like to bring your business online and be free of your geography. So sign up for my email newsletter to get my monthly report. See what's new on my blog at anniehelpsyou.com. Have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.